And with that, I would like to start with our next program on our OCLC Member Merge. And I would like to introduce Shanna Griffith, who is going to give an introduction of our three speakers. We are going to save questions for the very end of this group. So we'll have three individual speakers and then questions at the end. So take it away, Shanna.
Thanks, Nathan. I'm happy to introduce our three speakers for this next session. Laura Ramsey is a Senior Metadata Operations Manager in Metadata Quality. She has been with OCLC for 31 years and manages a team of 5 WorldCat Metadata Quality staff whose main objectives are WorldCat quality improvement initiatives and member outreach activities. Andrea Morrison is a head cataloger of the monographic text cataloging unit at Indiana University Bloomington. She is a member of the Program for Cooperative Cataloging. She also teaches cataloging in the Department of Information and Library Sciences and teaches online workshops for the Midwest Collaborative for Library Services. Her professional interests include cataloger training and cataloging government documents. Markus John is the ALMA Network Zone Manager at the Washington Research Library Consortium, WRLC. He manages the Network Zone, which is the shared database of bibliographic records in the ALMA library system. I will now pass it over to Laura.
Thank you, Shanna. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. One of my responsibilities as Senior Metadata Operations Manager and Metadata Quality is to manage the OCLC Member Merge Program. I'm going to take a few minutes today to give you some background on the project as well as talk about some successes. Many of you may know about this program and have some background already, so I'm just going to touch briefly on its history. After repeated requests from our members to open up merging to them, we decided to try a pilot back in 2013 to train 4 institutions to merge. All 4 institutions were successful in gaining independence over the course of the pilot when it wrapped up in 2014. We gathered feedback from the participating institutions to help inform us to the success of the pilot, while the pilot libraries continued on with their merging activities. A few of the things we experienced that made us pause a bit and consider whether or not we wanted to continue the program was the amount of time involved in the training. We also experienced that catalogers seemed to be excited about the program initially, but then found it difficult to find the time needed to make it through the review process. So as a result, we lost a few catalogers that started out with the pilot. So we took a pause for several years, and we weren't sure we were going to continue the program. However, our members continued to be interested in the program, and our new director at the time, Nathan Putnam, encouraged us to restart it. So we did in 2017, and we have been adding a new group every year since. We have made a lot of improvements working through trial and error over the past few years that have helped us to streamline the training and make the process much more efficient and manageable. Our documentation has been expanded to include guidelines for nearly all formats, and most recently, the guidelines for merging rare books was finalized and will be posted soon. We've also created some training videos that accompany the documentation and recorded demonstrations that we previously had done live during the training webinars. This allows participants to view the videos when the time was appropriate and worked best in their training process. And those resources are always available for them to revisit if needed. All of these resources are found on the Member Merge Community Center that our participants are able to access once they join the program. The Community Center also acts as a venue for announcements, as well as a place to ask questions of both OCLC and other program participants. As we have improved our processes, we have been able to onboard more institutions over time and decrease the training time. We have also added several external reviewers from institutions who went through the training and were willing to serve as reviewers to assist us. As you can see from this slide, the number of institutions that are participating has steadily increased. We used to start 1 cohort each fall, but for cohort 4, we trained 2 groups, 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring. We now have 45 institutions merging duplicate records in WorldCat. Of course, a great outcome of continuing to add new institutions to the Member Merge program is the increase of duplicates being resolved. This is not only a benefit to OCLC staff by helping to decrease our backlog and adding to what OCLC staff in our automated duplicate detection program merges, but it's also a benefit to our members who may be encountering fewer duplicates as they are cataloging in WorldCat. And we have heard over and over again from our members how satisfying it is that they are able to merge duplicate records as they encounter them and contribute to improving the quality of WorldCat. This slide gives a representation of the different formats that we have trained on besides the books format and how many institutions are trained in those formats. Most institutions start out with training on the books format, and once independent may request additional format training. We work special format training in as we have reviewers available since we have limited staff with different areas of expertise. So in some cases, the training may not happen immediately after completion of the books training. So how do you join, you might ask? If you are a PCC member institution, which is our only requirement, you may send an email to askqc@oclc.org to express your interest. We are planning on starting another cohort in the fall. That's all I have for now. Thank you for listening. I'll be happy to answer any questions about the program at the end of the presentations. And now I'm going to hand it over to Andrea Morrison to talk about her Member Merge program experience.
Hello, everyone. I am Andrea Morrison, Head of Monographic Text Cataloging at Indiana University Bloomington. I served as the IU Merge Group Liaison to OCLC during our training in the OCLC Member Merge Program for print and electronic monographs. I am pleased to share our experiences with you. We first heard about the program at ALA Annual Conference 2018. The cataloging managers were in favor of participating. It was approved, and Amy Bailey, head of cataloging, worked with OCLC to get the training started. Merge program training follows the trainer approach. We kept that in mind when we identified participants. Our libraries participated in the program for cooperative cataloging, and all trainees were NACO catalogers. The IU Merge Group included participants from the two libraries that you see on the screen. At the top is our main library, Herman B. Wells Library, followed by the Cook Music Library. The Wells Library cataloging managers agreed that we would participate in training, and then each manager would decide when they were ready to train cataloging staff. The Cook Music Library took a different approach, with the head of cataloging, one librarian, and two staff catalogers participating in the initial training, with the intent to train in music formats later. Either approach may work for you. We found it was helpful to keep the initial training group small. We started training in September 2018 by attending several training sessions together and individually reviewing materials on OCLC's Member Merge Community Center. OCLC's Member Merge Program training is excellent and valuable. It helps catalogers understand not only the merge process and connection and how to evaluate duplicate records, but also to better understand poor metadata, broader duplicate record issues, and OCLC's duplicate detection and resolution priorities. As liaison, I communicated regularly with our OCLC liaison, Cynthia Whitaker. She sent us installments of record sets to analyze for merging. Merge group members evaluated record quality in depth and posted comments and shared online files on whether or not to merge the records. For each new file, we set a deadline, which helped our group progress in training. I reviewed and sent our final decisions to OCLC and shared OCLC feedback with members. Because we were analyzing some complex issues, catalogers didn't always agree on merging and posted some lengthy comments on the records. We found that sharing research on standards for book and ebook cataloging was a valuable part of the experience. Our participation also helped us improve our defensive cataloging skills. On February 18th, 2019, we gained independence in book format for print and electronic monographs. After gaining independence in merging, we found it useful to spend additional time practicing. In Wells Library, managers needed to think about how best to incorporate merging records into our workflows. What was the best way to support Indiana University and help OCLC keep the best version of our record to support all of our users? My unit chiefly catalogs books and ebooks, and I am very enthusiastic about this program. At first, I merged all duplicate records for cataloging in my unit. I soon found that this was not sustainable. I now merge records that have the most impact for IU collections. They are records that we spend time on improving, sometimes retaining information from the duplicate records. In my unit, these may be literature, art and artist books, Cartoonera, Indiana education textbooks, Africana materials, Southeast Asian materials, government publications, and more. We focus on merging these types of duplicate records: duplicate full-level records and encoding level M records. In the past, we would enhance one record and go on, but we noticed our records could be merged, even BibCo records, and we wanted to retain our metadata in the master record. Duplicate multi-part monograph records. Merging these helps both cataloging and acquisition staff with added volumes. Records with monographic series issues. When we do series authority work, we keep and improve the record with correct series information. Records with incorrect and confusing elements for print or electronic books, or mixed format elements. Minimal level vendor records with incomplete metadata. And finally, I oversee our receipt and cataloging of Federal Depository Library Program monographs. I merge minimal level book records to the U.S. Government Publishing Office GPO record. Sometimes the minimal level records are in book format, but need to be merged to other formats, for example, the GPO map cataloging records. Our head of database management, Spencer Anspach, is also very enthusiastic about this program. He merges records brought to his attention by his staff and acquisition staff. This helps us use improved records for ordering and FastCat. He states, quote, "I think the merge program is a logical next step for international cooperation at the top-tier institutions. I appreciate the planning and policy work that goes into NACO, BibCo, etc., but the merge program is hugely important part of the actual work, like the creation and maintenance of name authority records that we have to do and we have to do together." End quote. What are our next steps? In Wells Library, we plan to train experienced cataloging staff in merging print and online monographs. Our head of media cataloging plans to participate in the visual materials merge training. Our head of music cataloging intends to have staff participate in scores and sound recordings merge training. They both confirmed that taking the books training first is a good idea for catalogers of other formats. Based on our experience at Indiana University, we highly recommend this program. Stable OCLC record numbers and holdings are very important to our institution, and the Member Merge Program supports our objectives. We use our holdings for a robust ILL program, for shared print repositories, digitization projects, for example, HathiTrust, for supporting collection analysis through OCLC services, and in many other contexts. We also view the Merge Program as helping us prevent future barriers to access caused by duplicate records and metadata misinformation. We found that merging duplicate records in connection serves the global cataloging and user communities and also helps our cataloging and acquisition staff. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Markus John, and I'm here to talk about the WRLC's experience with a member merge project. So the Washington Research Library Consortium is a group of libraries in the Washington, D.C. area. And for the member merge project, we had 4 participating universities, American, George Mason, Georgetown, and George Washington University. And we had a total of 17 catalogers who participated in the program. So how we got involved is I was logging on to Connection, and I saw the message of the day. And it was about an Ask Quality Control OCLC webinar on the member merge project. And I was intrigued because I didn't know that the cataloging community could merge records in WorldCat. I thought it was only OCLC. So we solicited interest from our partner libraries, and we reached out to our OCLC representatives. And Nathan was kind enough to attend one of our metadata meetings, and he explained the requirements on joining the program and answered some of our questions. So for us, the training and review process, I thought the training was very practical with real-world examples, and it consisted of 2 to 3 one-hour webinars. And the instructional documentation was very clear and detailed, and a lot of it is basically, if this, then do that. I especially found helpful the documentation on MARC fields, where basically it goes through MARC field by subfield and instructs you on what to compare in records to determine if they're duplicates. And then also there's a vendor list which tells you which vendors submit records to WorldCat at the encoding level and batch level, record level, and how these records have looser criteria and requirements for merging. And then after we did our training, we entered our review process. And this is where we learned by actually performing the merges. So we would submit proposed merges to our reviewer, who's Laura, and she would provide feedback and either approve or disapprove the merges. And the cool thing is when we submitted these proposed merges, we used a single Google Doc. So we were able to learn from the types of records that other catalogers had encountered, and also learn from the feedback they had received as well. So what I like about the Member Merge program is that, I'm empowered to consolidate duplicate WorldCat records, and I can't tell you how satisfying it is to get rid of duplicates, especially when they're very brief vendor records. And Member Merge becomes a part of your copy cataloging workflows. So you already evaluate record quality as your copy cataloging, and you also compare similar records. But now with Member Merge, you can take that extra step in merging duplicate records. And I guess my final plug for Member Merge would be catalogers already contribute bib records to WorldCat. Why not also help with database maintenance? So this is a slide that just shows you the kind of records you'll encounter. So on the left, you have DLC, PCC, encoding level 8, cataloging and publication record. It's a good full record. And then on the right, you see a brief vendor record. It's basically just an author, title, and publisher. And with Member Merge, you can get rid of that vendor record on the right and then consolidate it into the better DLC PCC record. And this is just another slide of before and after as well. So on the left, you see the before. I did an ISBN search and returned 14 records. And when you're copy cataloging, it can be kind of difficult to go through 14 records to find the one that you need. But on the right, you'll see after Member Merge, the same ISBN search will only return 4 records, and so much easier to go through 4 records to find the record that you need rather than 14. So that's all from me. I appreciate your time, and I think the next slide is for questions.
Yes, it is. So I'd like to thank Laura, Andrea, and Markus for providing an overview and their experiences of the Member Merge Project program at OCLC. We do have the chat open for questions, so if you do have questions, please feel free to send them to all participants in the chat. So starting off with a couple questions that came in, is this only for language cataloging in records in English?
No, it's not. Comparison between two records, regardless of what language of cataloging it is in, doesn't differ from language to language. So our member merge participants are welcome to merge records in other languages of cataloging besides English.
Has anyone volunteered to look at merging cartographic material records, since this cataloger finds dozens of duplicates for any given map, for example?
Yes, we have two institutions that are merging map duplicates now, and we developed the maps documentation about a year ago, and with a consultation of Paige, and worked through creating the documentation, and we have several institutions that are merging maps now.
Markus or Andrea, did you have something to add to that?
Unfortunately, no. I don't work with cartographic materials.
Okay.
This is Andrea, and in the future, we're interested at Indiana University, but right now we have other priorities for maps, but we do have a strong map collection, so we're interested.
Great. Are national level records excluded from the program?
No, and actually that's part of the reason that we make the requirement that you are a PCC participant, because you will be working with PCC records, BibCo records, Concert, if you work with serials. So no, they are not off limits.
Andrea or Markus, do either of you work with older materials, older books?
This is Andrea, and all the time, and the majority of our material is probably older materials. And what really helps us is that in my unit, usually we are merging records for which we have the material in hand.
So how do you make sure not to merge records that may refer to a different source? It's because you have it in hand?
I would say if there's 14 records, then you need to merge some of them. If you have any doubts about any of the records, you just merge the ones you're sure of. And you can leave the ones you're unsure of for OCLC to review, and you can also refer them to quality control.
I would also just add that we do have automated processes, the DDR, the duplicate detection and resolution, that does some of this merging. And because it's automated, it's not foolproof. And so if you do suspect things are incorrectly merged, we ask that you contact OCLC, let us know that you found that, and we will look into patterns and try to do things like that. But as Andrea pointed out, most of the catalogers in the program are fairly conservative and only merge what they are confident about.
Nathan, I'd like to add to that too.
Yes, please.
We are also changing the cutoff date for DDR. It used to be prior, we wouldn't merge prior to 1800 or something like that. I don't remember the exact dates. And we are bumping that up to no records will be merged prior to 1830, I believe.
Okay. I think, Laura, this is another question for you. Is there an expectation that an institution do a certain number of merges per month or per year once trained?
No, we had discussed putting some kind of minimum in place, but we never did really follow through with that, because once you're trained, really any merges that you do is a benefit. So whether it's 1 a month or 100 a month, it's still a benefit to OCLC and the members.
This is Andrea.
So,
I would like to also add that during stay at home, we find that we are merging fewer records per month, but we are still merging.
Great. Andrea or Markus, are you guys doing any of this in batch mode, or is it looking at records one by one?
Hi, this is Markus. I just do it records one by one. I don't do it in batch mode because it's just easier to compare two records side by side rather than doing it in batch. And then I'll create a list of OCLC records to merge in like a notepad document and then do the merges afterwards.
This is Andrea. No batch. Each record for possible merge is evaluated.
And then Laura, can NACO libraries NACO-only libraries participate, or do they have to be a part of BibCo or CONSER?
Yes, NACO-only libraries can participate.
Great. I do see several more questions in the chat. However, we're at our slated time for this particular item. So what we are going to do is, for those of you who do not have your questions answered, we will answer them as part of the notes, and you'll be able to retrieve those once we have those up online. So with that, I would like to thank Laura, Andrea, and Markus for their presentation on the Member Merge Program. And we're going to do our third question of the afternoon. And trivia question number 3, what does encoding level 3, or the leader byte 17, indicate? So the abbreviated level added from batch processing, the title is not in the 245, item is a microfilm. And there's that 245 again. Now you technically could have cheated a little bit because most of us are at computers and we could have done a quick search for this. But if you answered this is an abbreviated level, then you were correct. And Cynthia Whitaker is going to talk a little bit more about our encoding levels in a couple minutes when we get to cataloging policy updates.